All right. Hey, welcome back to the Go4CEO channel. I am super excited because I wear a couple hats in life. I'm not only a dad of three girls, married 16 years. I've been a commercial banker for a while, and these guys actually been clients of mine, and they are building an empire. So let me share with you a little bit. Dr. Jeff and Dr. Kristy Frank built Spex Expressions to help people see who they can become with personalized care, leading edge technology, and a community first mindset that has quietly transformed Illinois' number one Spex Expressions. How are you guys? Welcome to the GO4CEO channel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, look, we always like sharing with the GO4CEO community, a little bit of the background. I know a little bit selfishly myself, the background, and it's so cool that, a husband and wife duo, dynamic duo, building an enterprise is a cool thing. So we're excited to hear kind of how did the journey start? I believe you did buy out this business, and then now you've created an empire behind it. So share a little bit about kind of that story, that backstory, and then we'll get into kind of how you guys run the business and what you're doing growing the business.
Well, Christy and I met in optometry school, and when we were uh, going there, and when my father was a dentist when I was growing up, so I knew that I always wanted to own my own business, and from when I was little. I saw what he did. I knew it was a lot of hard work, but I also saw there was a lot of rewards too. So when we graduated, I graduated a year before Christy, and then a good friend of mine back in the day was a broker that sold different practices, and he told me, you really should look at this place in Sycamore. And at the time, I didn't even know where Sycamore was. so, but he said, I came from a small town in Indiana, and Christy came from, say, Chicago. So, anyway, I was driving out there from Chicago. It was, about an hour away. And it's in the, for those that don't know, it's in the DeKalb region. So it neighbors DeKalb. And now we've moved our location actually to DeKalb. But anyway, so when we were looking out there, I really liked the hometown feel out there and the community. And I thought that there was a lot to grow out there. And I saw people moving west because of affordability with housing. So I talked to him a little bit more and talked to my father and talked to Christy. And we settled on living in about 30 minutes east of there in North Aurora, Illinois. And we actually, and that's about as far as Christy would go at the time west.
I grew up in Chicago, so when Jeff was like, let's go by this practice in Sycamore," I was like, "That's by Northern." Like, I knew where Northern was. I attended like sports camps there, but I was like, "Okay, that's kind of far, but whatever. It's within an hour of Chicago." So I was like, "We'll go look at it." And Jeff just kind of fell in love with the practice, fell in love with the area. So then I was just kind of like, "Okay, fine. This is the practice you want. Like, we can go ahead and buy it and kind of get started." So, but initially he was the first person who was practicing there. And like he said, I was a year behind him from graduating. So I kind of worked some odds and end jobs, and then eventually ended up buying three other older doctors who had smaller practices in the area in DeKalb and Sycamore, and then merged them all into Spex. And then we've been practicing ever since 2006 together, I believe, 2005, 2006. So
Yeah,
that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, April 1st of 2004 is when I started at the location in Sycamore, and we were at the same location for 21 years. Like Christy said, we merged her three practices. She bought three smaller practices, and I had one large practice that I bought into. So we did not start cold. We bought into a practice. The revenues for that practice that I bought were right around 600,000 at the time. We quickly took that practice. I don't remember how quick, but it quickly went over 1 million with all the changes we made. And then once Kristy joined in 2006, we stayed in the same location there until this last year, where John actually helped us get financing for a new building. And we just moved into a new building with 6,500 square feet in DeKalb, and it's been awesome. We moved in June of this year.
It's beautiful. Patients are really liking it. The staff really likes it. So it's a really nice addition for the community. It's a really nice building.
All right. Well, look, I'm not going to let you guys just do 2 minutes of a recap here. This is a phenomenal story. So we've got to get a little bit deeper into this. All right. So, all right. Yeah, Kristy, you're a year behind. You see this gentleman that you're like, all right, you're fancying him, you're dating him. Oh man, he's entrepreneurial. He's got this background. His dad, is an entrepreneur, as a dentist, and then he goes off to Sycamore, right? And then you decide to buy 3 other practices in the midst of that. So tell us a little bit about that and how you guys are deciphering the business side, right? Did you have some mentors? Because I know as a Go4CEO community, we always enjoy, all right, where are you gleaning this information? You're kind of fairly new out of this, optometry school, and you're making these decisions to run businesses and acquire businesses, which is even more important to the story. So give us a little bit of that background from a combination standpoint, from yours acquiring the 3, and Dr. Frank, Dr. Jeff, from that side of things of where you were.
So I think I'm just kind of a competitive person, to be kind of honest. And so when Jeff starts talking about getting these practices and having a practice, like, it kind of becomes very much of a kind of a challenge for me, right? I don't want to be the person that doesn't have a practice.
Live up to her expectations.
I want to do just as well as he does, I guess. My competitive nature. So when he had bought the practice in Sycamore, we kind of knew where we were going to be, like, geographically located. Then I kind of just started looking at practices around the Chicagoland area that would make sense. And there were like brokers that helped us, that would come to our college and talk to doctors. And so there were brokers that I would meet with and, go look at practices. And that's kind of how I found the first 2 that I got. They were just older ODs that this broker had been talking to. And so I kind of just went and met them. And the first practice I bought, the first 2 I bought, I mean, we definitely had I had a hard learning, life lessons of learning, I guess you could say, things that they don't teach you in school. Like, one of the doctors, his staff member decided to basically write a list of all the patient records that I paid for, and then, try to solicit all those people. She opened up her own practice. So it wasn't all roses and fun, and I learned that the hard way coming out of school, that life is tough and you have to look out for yourself because nobody's looking out for you. So that was a really hard business lesson to learn at 24, graduating optometry school, that, oh, I just paid X, Y, and Z money for this practice, and now I have this person who's trying to steal it from me. But needless to say, I just kind of kept reaching out to people, marketing people. And then I was practicing by myself in a different location from Jeff for the first, I think, 3 months. And then
the broker called her, she had Jeffitis. That's what he said. I remember.
Again, I'm just competitive. So after I did that for 3 months by myself, then I was like, you know what, this doesn't make sense to pay 2 rents, to be so close to each other, to kind of be competing with each other. And then we just merged into that first building. And then I felt like that volume of the first 2 that I bought wasn't enough. And then I had found another doctor that had wanted to sell through the same broker who was local. So then I kind of tapped into that little practice and incorporated that too.
And I will say, we had difficulties back in the day of working together. We don't anymore, but back in the day, I was very strong on the scale of they have disc personalities. I'm a pretty strong D, and I was actually too dominating in the practice, and I didn't realize that Kristy's strengths were numbers, and she liked like accounting numbers, things like that. So I didn't even know that because I was in the mindset that we can't fail, and that we have to, I was overtaking the practice and everything.
He's being too nice. Jeff likes to control the practice. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
He's full of ideas.
That's a good.
He's full of ideas.
Yeah.
He's a very good entrepreneur. He has a lot of ideas. He's not great at implementing those ideas.
Yeah.
So that's where me and some of our other staff members come into play with like, okay, that's great. You have these ideas, but how do we actually make it happen?
Right.
But we learned that because there was a group that there's a bunch of different practice groups that optometrists go to where you have a bunch of optometrists who are business owners. They meet together. And when we first started, I went to a group and we met there and we're talking to all these doctors. And that's where we figured out like the disc profiles and how to kind of work together. Because we were either going to figure it out or we were going to get divorced, right? I mean, there was no in between. It's hard to be married and work with somebody. So
the biggest thing from that, it was called a strategic review at the time. I think they still have them. But the biggest thing we learned from that was that we could not, at the time, not it's changed, but at the time, we should stagger our hours and we shouldn't work at the same time. And then also we should find what Kristy's strengths are in the practice and utilize those instead of suppressing those. And that's when things really changed and made a big difference by doing that. Now it's all changed because we've been doing this for so long that really we work together, and then we added another associate, so we don't have some of the issues back then that we did, but it took really them coaching us. So sometimes my advice to any new business owners is, you're not going to know everything on your own. And there are tons of, in every industry, peer-to-peer groups to go to. I'm going again next week in Denver to meet with a group of, you always got to learn. I look at myself as a sponge at these meetings where I just try to learn, take in what people say. And I give advice too, but you have to be willing to take advice when you go to meetings or talk to consultants or what have you. So that was a changing point for us, because if we didn't have that, like Kristy said, we would have some real issues. And I think where I have my deficiencies, she's very strong. And where she has her deficiencies, I'm pretty strong. So we really kind of balance each other in that way. And that's part of our success.
It's evident, right, in success books and business books. They talk about those same facts, right? Henry Ford got 100 people to be more powerful than him and build this Ford business based on the talents that they had, right? So he distributed 1% to make 100% in that sense. You guys discovering that pretty early was pretty amazing, because having no business experience, you went through that scenario where someone's trying to steal your business instantaneously, and you going through the, I'm sure, legal battle in that sense, and then trying to work together, right? Tell us a little bit about, I guess, the leadership side, right? Because when you go into business, especially when you buy a business, you're having to deal with personalities instantaneously, right? You got your front person, you got in your guys' business in optometry, you got, the retail side, you've got the back end side, the operations, and you hadn't even learned each other. So those first few years, what were the dynamics of leadership, right? Who took the staff under their wing, and who took kind of the day-to-day side of things? It sounds like Kristy made it day-to-day, or what was that?
I don't know. I think we were pretty bad leaders in the beginning, to be quite honest. I mean, I don't think you know what you're doing, right? Like, you go to optometry school, you learn to be a doctor, right? And when we went to undergrad, we were very much science oriented, right? And so I always joke my staff that I should have been a psychology/business major in undergrad, and then did science, because there's so much you have to learn from relating to people and how to lead people and reading tons of leadership books. And,
some of it's intuition too, by the way. Some of it's you got it or you don't. I hate to say that, but I really feel that way. I can tell sometimes, I can tell when a staff member's off or something's going on, or you got to have that intuition. You got to be very observant of what's going on. Kristy, to this day, to answer some of your question, Kristy to this day deals more on the HR side, and then I deal more with the finance side, and that's the way we've done things for years. Now we've expanded now where we have we've now delegated things to different people. Like we have an insurance manager, and we have a practice administrator, and we have an optical manager. So all those people now that we've gotten to the point where we have enough staff, we've created this hierarchy.
Team. We have like a leadership team. We meet together, and then it's up to them, obviously, right, to help us hit the goals we want to hit. But I mean, it's still, I don't know. I'm a big Disney fan. We've gone to a lot of different lectures, but there's that old saying like, you are on stage, right? So like when you get to work, you still have to perform, and act in a certain way. And I think that hopefully, if you're a good leader, you're portraying things that your staff wants to follow, right? So you try to do that as much as we can.
So like Kristy's saying, we went to the Disney Leadership Institute at one point, a long time ago. And one of the things we learned there is there's off stage and on stage. And when you're on the floor of wherever you work, you're on stage. And so, and we also read, the Fish book from Seattle, where you have to bring a positive attitude into work. Don't bring outside things into work and things. So when you're off stage too, that matters too. Side note. But when you're on stage, basically, you have to realize that people are constantly evaluating you. They're making opinions. They're judging you. They're giving you a grade essentially of how their experience is. And not only the customers are doing that, but your own staff is doing that. And so if you come in real hectic, which I have done before, it can really backfire on you. So I tell my staff that they know that I'm striving for perfection every day. I know I'm a perfectionist. I'm not going to, and being a perfectionist, I'm not going to get to where I realize nothing is ever going to be perfect, but at least I'm striving for perfection with my practice. If I see something on the ground, I'm not too good enough to not pick it up. I pick it up. If I want my culture, my business to reflect the way I think it should. And so I have to show that to my staff. And that's what I try to do. I tell my staff, look, if I tell you you're doing something, if I'm giving you advice, because I tend to be overly nice, I tell them, I say, look, this is to make you better. This is not a compliment or a statement to bring you down. I'm trying to make us better. And if you don't get these different things, then we're not better as a team. So that all is part of leadership.
So there's a dynamic, right, of purchasing businesses, being in the business, and as you then unite the businesses, you had to have, faced different situations. Was there any particular story that you could share that you sensed, oh, okay, this employee, we're going to have to, do some different things, right? Put together some different processes for them, or, Kristy, developing the HR side on the go. Did you read any books that you could recommend, or did you use any tools that kind of streamlined that for you guys?
I want to answer on that. Like, so I'm a big sports fan, and I like a lot of sports, and I'm not a Duke fan. Kristy's a Duke fan, but one thing that Coach K said and what he was good at a leader at was was knowing the strengths and weaknesses of every team member. And to answer your question, there is a specific instance. Our current tech right now, we had as an optician, and we put him in a role which did not highlight his strengths and highlighted more of his weaknesses. So what we should do as a team member, as a leader, is we should highlight people's or strengthens people's strengths and weaken their weaknesses, if that makes any sense. So his strengths were more technical based. They were not sales. They were not.
But he's also very people oriented. So he liked interacting with people. He had that great personality. He wants to talk. He wants to be social, but he wasn't good at, he felt uncomfortable when it came to talking about sales, talking about money. And so that's what we initially hired him for. And then, we
almost fired him,
obviously, like coach him and improve on things. And then when that didn't work, we were like, you know what, let's just shift this and try something totally different for you. Are you open to that? And thankfully he was. And then, he's been with us for like 4 years and he's our head tech and he's doing a great job. So, that's a situation where we're able to kind of look at like, what were we doing wrong? Like, are we setting him up to fail? Are we putting him in a position that he's just going to fail because this isn't really what he wants to do?
And our practice administrator, same thing. She worked with us for years. We went through a ton of practice administrators that really did not fit our role. And they say, there's a lot of different theories out there, but there's people that don't like promoting from within. And there could be some animosity with other staff members. They wanted to be the manager. They didn't get it, whatever. We promoted this practice administrator. And I'm going to tell you, I totally have my doubts for a while. We sent her to classes. We sent her to Dallas and other places with leadership.
That were part of like big optometric associations that we're involved with, like PECA and some others that offer these classes to people. So we use that as a resource.
So use your resources is what I'm getting at. And then we and she's been really good at managing, and I was quite doubtful. So I guess my point is that you have to try to maybe do personality surveys. They, some people like them, some people don't, but you need to really
try to understand who you're working with, right? Try to understand
their strengths
that they like and what makes them tick, and and I think then try to adapt that just to their day-to-day lifestyle. If somebody is doing a task that they absolutely can't stand, that makes them uncomfortable, like they're not going to be able to be successful doing that for you, because they really have to go outside of their personality to push through that. So I feel like, we have kids who are getting older, so we're always trying to talk to them about like, what is it that you really love? Like I want them to pick a career that they actually enjoy doing, that they're not adapting their whole personality just to, just for a career, because then they're going to be miserable. So I guess we try to do that same thing with our staff. Like, what is it you enjoy doing at work? What is it you don't enjoy doing at work? And then the things that they don't enjoy, we try to limit their time doing that, if that makes any sense. And then leadership books. My mom actually was an HR person who hired people for hospitals. So she was a good mentor for me. Like,
so you might not know this, John, but Kristy was the youngest. She
I don't think it's true anymore.
It might not be true anymore, but we're good friends with a guy named Dr. Mark Cobb, who's the president now of our school. And at the time, she was the youngest optometry student to ever go through that school. She went after 2 years to optometry school, which is unheard of.
I was very motivated in undergrad, which
her mom helped her.
There's some frustration with me and my own kid who's an undergrad, because he's not quite as motivated as I am, but that's okay. But anyway, getting back to HR. So my mom hired HR for hospitals. So she kind of helped me a little bit with just like, coming up with criterias of like phone screening questions, interview questions, like an employee handbook, just things like that. So she was a great resource for me. But other organizations for optometry does offer that too. So I'm sure there's different organizations that offer that. And then, I remember one of the first books I read was Who Moved My Cheese. She gave me that to read, which I feel like is a super, popular book. And then another one that I read that I thought was interesting for a practice was If Disney Ran Your Hospital. And that was just interesting to kind of look at customer service, but also running like a healthcare business. But there's tons of customer service oriented books. I don't have like a great HR book, I guess.
My favorite book is a book called Hug Your Customer. And it's about Jack, I can't think of the guy's last name, but it's about a department store out east and what they do for their customers. And we all say customer service is going above and beyond for your customer, but do we really go above and beyond for our customers? I can tell you, going above and beyond for your customers, I've been in a jail before to give an eye exam. I've been to a guy's house who was dying, and all he wanted was a pair of glasses to see. But before he died, he was in hospice. He died actually we had to rush the glasses. He died about 2 days after he got them. But that's the one thing he wanted. We've stayed extra hours for patients. There's you also have a life, so you have to. I understand that, but when I was building the business and why we've gotten so busy and why people trust us so much is because we're always there for patients. And I can't say that about a lot of businesses nowadays, to be honest.
Well, I can't say that about a lot of doctors nowadays.
Doctors.
We'll give our patients our cell phone number and be like, if you have to call me, just text me, whatever. Right. And nobody really takes advantage of it. People aren't bothering me like on a Saturday night to ask me eye questions, but it's so hard. I don't know if you feel this way. Like, I feel like going to doctors, just like making an appointment, sometimes messaging them, getting an answer. Like sometimes you're talking to nurses, like it's just hard to have that sometimes one-on-one care, like with your doctor, I feel like anymore, because it has become so big, I guess, big business. But so we try to focus on that, right? And just do the little things we can for people. But we do also need to kind of improve on that. I feel like that's one of our goals with our leadership team is to kind of get back to our roots and really focus on that, because as we've been growing and moving and stuff, sometimes there's been a lot going on. So we have to keep our eye on the ball and kind of get back to what's actually made us successful too. So it's ongoing. Like it never stops. The minute you think you're doing good, you get too comfortable, you realize mistakes are happening, and now you have to get back to paying attention to everything. So it's
Well, a
never
couple of
ending.
books you just made me think of is Only the Paranoid Survive, which is a great book talking about business and making sure that you just that reference you just made, always touching the business, always understanding, okay, hey, what's the next move? What can we tweak on there? Who can we lift up? Who needs a little bit more, tender loving care, that type of thing. And then, you guys just transitioned so well from leadership into customer service and experience. There's another book called Unreasonable Hospitality, right? And it's kind of that Four Seasons and Ritz-Carlton and like you said, Disney, those approaches in small to medium-sized business are very much achievable, but you need leadership, right? You need leaders like you guys, putting in that attention. And I'm sure culture then has been something that you guys have really developed. Can we go into a little bit of how the culture's developed? Because at the end, I do ask engagement and how you guys engage, but I want to slide into the culture of Spex and what you guys have been able to do within the community and share those insights.
Before we do that, I want to do on the unreasonable survive.
Paranoid, I think he said.
Paranoid. Okay, sorry. One of the things, and Kristy's heard this 1,000 times, but one of the things that I will always remember is a long time ago. You can look this up. There's a 60 Minutes with Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, and on that meeting, he says, I am afraid every day of losing this. And he's got the biggest stadium in the NFL to this day. And and the announcer didn't get it. If you watch the video, the announcer's like, "What you're doing?" And and at that moment, I really understood what he says, because that's the way I feel. Actually, is I never take anything for granted in our business, and every day. That's why I bring my A game every day, because I'm afraid. That's my biggest fear. Is I would lose everything. And it might be a little unreasonable, but that's the way my mind thinks. So I just want to add that little side note as far as it
We
goes.
appreciate, I mean, look, vulnerability and understanding that, and how you guys have developed each other, right? Iron sharpens iron. It was interesting to hear at the beginning, right, that Kristy said, "Hey, I'm competitive. I saw
Yeah.
Jeff going to get that practice. I wanted to do it, right?" So let's dive into the complexity of that, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you kind of mentioned a couple times, it's not easy being a husband and wife duo, at the home, and duo at work, and duo in life, right? So share a little bit about that dynamic, and then we'll get into other areas of the business. But if you can share a couple minutes of what that has been like, and what are some of the things that you could share as a couple that do work together.
Well,
Well,
go ahead.
you
I'll
you
let you
could
go
go, I
first.
guess. That's okay.
No, you go first.
I would say that and maybe some people don't like this about me, but I feel like Jeff and I are very much what you see is what you get. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is no hidden agenda with us. Like, the way we act at home is the way we act at work, right? If Jeff is driving me crazy, I might, be kind of snarky with him in front of my staff members. Sorry. Just the way I might in front of our kids at home, right? Like, but my point is, I feel like we just keep it very real. We keep it very open. Like, if I'm annoyed about something, he's going to know I'm annoyed about it. Like, I can tell when he's frustrated with me about something. And I think that in marriage and life and relationships, like, if you can be more real and open with people and discuss things, I feel like that, people sometimes hold stuff in and they harbor these feelings, they don't communicate with you, and then one day they blow up on you, right? And if you had no clue that person's feeling that way, and this has happened to me with friends and other things, like, and workers, then you're like, you didn't even give me a chance to fix this because you didn't even tell me what was wrong. So we always tell our staff members, like, if you're unhappy, like, I don't know, I'm not a mind reader. Like, you need to come and tell me, give me a chance to fix it. Let's talk through it. Like, same thing goes to them. If I'm unhappy with something, I'm just going to pull them back and say, hey, like, this happened today. It was not the way I wanted it to go. Like, how are we going to fix this tomorrow? I can't have this happen again, And so maybe some people don't like that we're that straightforward, I guess, but I just don't have time for nonsense. Like, let's just focus on doing the best we can. Let's talk about it, and, like, let's move on.
Yeah, we nip things in the bud pretty quick. We don't let things linger, I think, is a good thing. Going to partly what you're asking and the culture question, we have a culture board actually at our office, and it basically says what we are, and then it says what we are not. And so we'll bring that up sometimes if we get away from our culture, or someone's not acting our culture, which we've had over the years. We have to go over that board with them.
We have to have a meeting and be like, okay, let's get back to this. Maybe we're not understanding. This is who we are. This is what we're wanting to accomplish.
Yeah.
Let's get back to our roots. Let's focus on these things.
I could tell you, if you're not a detailed worker, I tell everybody this, it's not going to work, because you need to be detailed. That's not just with us. That's in life, in my book. You need, so if a patient comes in and they don't get a pair of glasses that I prescribed, I don't recommend, I prescribe, and they needed them, I want it written in the chart, what's going on, what happened in that case. Be detailed, because when they come back in and they look for those glasses, if there's no notes in the chart, we have nothing to go by. So it is very important to me so we have a whole culture board with that. And as far as our relationship goes, like Kristy said, it is, I try to leave work more than Kristy, I think. I try to leave work at work, and when I come home, I try to at the end of the day, I'll say before the day starts, I might do some work, but at the end of the day, I try to leave. We don't talk a lot about work at home. We talk about other things.
I think that's true. I think when we were starting the practice and our boys were growing up and we were younger, all we did was talk about work at home.
But not
right.
we became. But it's changed, I think, is what I'm saying.
Better because we're busier. We have more kids. We have more places to be. We have more stuff to juggle. Right. So when we're at home,
that's it.
We have to make sure we're doing all the other crap we have to do as a family. But I think it's only just because of that. I think if we didn't have stuff to do, I think we would default to talking about work just because.
But I guess what I'm getting at is I think it's good that we don't just talk about work when you get home for those married couples out there that are business owners. I think it's good to do other things other than talk about work when you're.
I also think when you're working with somebody in a business, like, because of our field, we're working at the same office, but like I'm in my exam room with my patient, he's in his exam room with his patient. Like, we're not sitting side by side all day at a desk, like problem solving together, right? Like we might interact with each other for small bits, but otherwise we're seeing our patients. So even though we're working together, it's not like I don't know. I would imagine there'd be other businesses where people might be working more side by side all day, where that could be totally different. Whereas we are in our own rooms with our patients, interacting with patients all day. So it's not like we're totally interacting all day at work.
Yeah, that's true too.
It's just different. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Well, 100%. And I think it's evolved, right? As you started, your baby was your businesses, and then you had real babies, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Transition that dynamic, and then now that they're a little bit older and have more activities and stuff, I guess one thing that would be kind of interesting to hear is, where is that dynamic of support, right? I mean, a business is taxing. It could be overwhelming at times, but once you have the processes and the things that kind of make a business really run, it's great. But then the dynamic at home, have you guys invested in help? Do you have family around you? What are some of the areas that you've done in that sense to be able to kind of coordinate both and juggle both?
Support for the business or support for our family?
Family dynamic side, because obviously as your kids get older, now they're into these different sports and they have to attend this, and you are wanting to be parents, but also run a business, and both of you are in the same business. So what's that dynamic like?
So for most of the time, we try to always stagger our hours for patient hours. Where like if Jeff was seeing patients on Monday, I was home with the kids. So we tried to flip flop our schedule. I worked Saturdays for 20 something years. So he was always off Saturdays. So we could have that. But then when there is time where we would work together, luckily my parents live, in the Chicagoland area. So they help us quite a bit. So they'll pick up kids. They had picked up kids for school for me for years if we needed to. I think they're trying to come in my garage door right now if I hear it opening. So thankfully we've had them. And that was one of the reasons I told Jeff when we were looking at practices, I was like, I want to be within, 60 miles of my parents because I want to be close to my family. I want to be able to hop in a car and get to them. But then to much of Jeff's dismay, I'm sure sometimes they aggravate him, but they have helped us a lot with getting kids to places and getting kids, wherever they need to go. So it is helpful to have family. And what's that old saying? You can't, like you need a community or something. There's some catchphrase like,
well,
I'm blanking.
I think you need your team, right? So like we have our business team, which consists of not only internally, but externally, right? Because you have your team of like lawyer, accountant, all that team, marketing, everybody. Okay.
Banker. Where's the banker?
Banker. Yeah. Banker's another one. Sorry. Yeah. And then at home, you have to have a different team, right? So you have to have neighbors, friends
that help us.
So we have neighbors, friends, family members. So we have a home team and we have a work team. And, they're both different teams.
I mean, you can't do it by yourself. I had to ask a neighbor last week, like, hey, could you take our daughter to school? Because we had to be at CE class. Like, so I'm sending text messages,
continuing,
and we live in a great neighborhood where it's just a lot of really nice, helpful people. So we're lucky and blessed that way that they help, we all help each other.
So it was interesting to answer your question a little bit further. This is a little background about us. So when I met Kristy, I grew up, my family is pretty thin and it's spread all throughout the United States. I grew up in a small town in India where I had no family. So my family was my friends and my family friends. So my parents had friends and that was our family. So I always put a high importance on friends. Kristy, on the other hand, came from Chicago, like the movie Big Fat Greek Wedding.
All of my aunts, most of my aunts and uncles lived within a mile
big
of us.
Polish family, big Polish family. Like they would get together for everything, and so she had big family gatherings. Like, they would graduate from grammar school and it'd be 100 people there.
It's a Chicago thing. Jeff doesn't understand that. I don't.
Yeah, I don't get that
graduation. But
we don't party for 6th grade. But anyway, my point is that we have so she learned from me the importance of friends, and I learned from her the importance of family. And so we've kind of intermixed both those, and that's really been good. And so anyway, that I think that answers your question.
No, I love it. It's so real. Now, just to make sure, Kristy, how many siblings do you have?
I only have one sister. She's 4 years older than me, but my cousins, like my mom's sister's kids, basically like grew up like my siblings, right? Like, so I'm pretty close with those cousins. I grew up with them a lot. And so
her mom had 4 siblings.
4 counting herself, and my dad had 4,
and her dad had 4.
But I was,
and they have their kids,
cousins, and but I was very close, I guess, to my cousins growing up, So I don't know, and like Jeff said, like we're all in each other's business, kind of, and get together for parties, and so I don't know. That's really special to me. That's important. My kids are close with their cousins, and that's why we stayed in the Chicagoland area, was because I wanted that for my family. I didn't want them to be alone in another state. So we were lucky enough to have that. So who knows what will happen with our kids.
How many siblings do you have, Jeff?
I have 2 other siblings, and one lives in LA and the other one lives in Cincinnati. So that's my point, is my siblings I see maybe 2-3 times a year at most. Well, my brother I might see more. Kristy we see her family all the time. So it's just different. And in her family, another thing I learned is kind of like what she said, is everything is everything's out in the open, basically. So there's no secrets. It's like everybody knows everybody else's business, which like she said, we are who we.
But I mean, we don't have anything to hide. It's not like our secrets are like these secrets.
I know.
I mean, you're making it sound like we have real secrets. Like, but everything is open. We get frustrated. We yell at each other. And then you know what? Like 15 minutes later, it's like, okay, I'm sorry. Let's move on.
But I think that's a good business lesson too, because I think you should be that truthful in your business, like she was saying, because if you hide things or sugarcoat things or downplay things or whatever,
you're just a shady person, right? Like you say one thing to one person's face and then behind their back, you're saying something else. Like, I don't want to be friends with people like that. I don't want to work with people like that, right? Like, I don't need that toxic culture in my life. So like, I tried to
nip that in the bud.
I try to, what the people I want to surround myself with in my personal life and how I want to act is that's the type of behavior I kind of want to have at the office, right? Like I don't have time for that. Like I'm there to work. I've got to take care of our patients. We got to get home and take care of all the other things I have to take care of. Like but I know not everyone's that genuine. Some people are not genuine and some people have fake agendas, and that's just life. So I feel like you just try to surround yourself with good people, as cheesy as that sounds, but
Yeah.
You learn that throughout your life.
Correct.
There's 5 F's that I talk about in my book. I'll selfishly plug there, right? It's faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, right? And those
What was
five,
the first one?
faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, right? So,
Okay.
and in the finance world is obviously it could be personal, it could be business, all that stuff, your faith, your family, right? And you guys kind of, you meshed it all together for this incredible soup that you put together in your life. And it's such a cool story that I will say the culture, I think, of Chicago is that, right? For those that you meet, Go4CEO community in the Chicagoland area, we're like that. We're real. We tell you how it is, right? But we also bust chops, right? And if
Yeah.
you can't bust
For sure.
someone's chops, quote unquote, then you're probably not a good friend or someone that you were going to hang out with, right? Because we want to be
Right.
real. So I love that, Kristy. I relate to that. And then Jeff, coming from that smaller town, maybe that the different dynamics, it's so cool to see how you guys have blended everything together. So
Yeah.
I'll get us back to business here with the sense of, marketing and scaling, right? I was privy to see you guys go from that kind of strip mall area to now building, a beautiful building and doing it on your own and seeing how that dynamic works, right? Tell us what has been some of the key points of marketing to be able to go from that. I think you said you bought it at 600,000 and you're at, quite a few $1 million of business now.
Yeah. We're almost at 3 million.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
so what are those marketing strategies and things that you guys said to yourselves, oh, wow, this is working. Oh, you know what? That didn't really work that well.
Well, I think that's changed over the years, like obviously because things have changed over the last 20 years. Like when we first started our business for 10, 15 years, we wrote a lot of handwritten notes to patients. We did a lot of like we would mail out boxes of chocolate every Christmas, like to certain clientele, like saying thank you. Um, and some of that we've kind of gotten away from, although we just were recently having a staff meeting about going back to the handwritten notes because we believe that's our culture. But also like in those 20 years, like, social media has become a bigger deal. Google reviews are a big deal. Everybody's just doing everything on their phones, right? And so we had to switch and pivot, and we have a different marketing team now that recently last year, we've got our Google reviews almost up to 500. So we've done a lot. We have more of a strategic marketing plan with an outside company, I guess, that's focusing on search engine like optimization and things like that, right? And that wasn't really a thing, 10 years ago when we were
well,
in the middle of our practice.
they interface it with AI. We're using a national strategic group that actually they're cutting edge for our field, and I'm sure there's a cutting edge in every field, but that is where this question goes a lot to my ideas that Kristy talks about. So like I said before, I go to a lot of meetings I limit it now to like two to 4 a year, but I go to these meetings where I learn from other people and they learn from me of what's working, what's not working. And then we test it out. And then if something's really working, we'll go with it. One thing that's worked for us for years is a customer appreciation day. And what that is basically is we bring a frame line, we showcase a frame line, and then we do a special on that day for our patients. And then tons of patients come in and it's been widely successful. And to the point where patients wait for it.
Yeah,
So,
they know it's coming. It's twice a year, same time of year, every year. So
yeah.
they'll be like,
So,
when is that going to be again?
yeah. So we've gotten our marketing calendar down to almost a T from just trial and error over the years. August, July is back to school, obviously. End of the year is use it or lose it.
Yeah.
First of the year is new look, new you. So there's all these different ideas, but that you could do, and we've done fake tax refund letters where people thought they were actual tax, that they actually thought they were going to cash their money in. It looked that real, but it wasn't. And but it was like for a random number, like $48.26. And they would come in and they would get that off their bill of ordering something in our place. But all of these different ideas, I think that's what makes owning a business kind of fun and creative, because you can get as creative as you want with these things. And it's, if it doesn't work, that's fine. I always try to find things that you can track. And tracking is a big part of things, because if you can't track it, it's kind of hard, and I focus a lot more on internal marketing than external marketing. We do some external marketing, but it's very limited. Most of the marketing we do is to our current client base, because we've built it up. If you're new, just starting out, you would probably do focus on the external marketing. So there's all these different ideas. It's really, how creative do you want to get? What do you want to do? I'm working on right now a thing in our office where you can put, it's like a case, and you can put your online glasses that failed in this case, and under it's going to say something to the effect of, put your online glasses in here. We'll get you a new set of customized eyewear that fits your everyday needs, something to that effect.
But I think it's just also too, we always are getting new technology. We're always trying new things. We're always then explaining that to our patients, and a lot of our educating maybe comes from the chair, talking to them about why things are important, and then word of mouth. So I feel like, yes, we do like external search engine optimization, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But then we're also just doing the old fashioned, try to educate people as much as you can. And then word of mouth referrals too, I feel like are still.
Well, and I will say this, like, we are getting tons of referrals now from like urgent care centers and, other doctors. We're seeing other healthcare professionals as patients. But this is the thing I will say to you, doing this for a little while. That takes a while to build up your reputation. And you have to be consistent, and it takes
decades.
It does. I mean, I hate to say that, but it takes a good 10 to 20 years before you get that respect. I hate to say it, but I feel that way pretty strongly. We brought in a new associate, and just working with her and promoting her, I feel like I remember how it was back when I started, and it just is a process. There's people that will want to just see me. They won't want to see her. They'll just want to see Kristy. And so if you are new out there, you're going to have to keep working hard and grind. Nothing comes easy. I will say that. I tell my kids that nothing comes easy. And the other thing I tell them is, you can't endure success until you've endured failure. I remember one time when her sister was out she probably doesn't even remember, at our practice, and our checkbook was at zero. And I really did not know if we were going to make it. And so you really have to, you have to endure failure and realize that, what do we need to do? Because when you're enduring failure, at that point, you got to say, what do I need to pivot to? What will make us survive? What's going to make us go, in those situations, it's life or death. And I've encountered that.
Life or death. That's a little dramatic.
Okay. But,
I mean, yeah.
But you understand what I'm saying. It's important.
What you're saying, but yeah. No one's dying,
we've also encountered arbitration and mediation and all these other things that we did when we were purchasing our practices, that we had to put our business up in the Chicago Tribune and hoping nobody was going to come and buy it. It was interesting times, but I will say that being constantly striving to be the best is what I do. And it's part of I think it's part of our success, and just, I also try to stay on the cutting edge on certain things. Now, sometimes staying on the cutting edge is not always good. There's problems with new stuff that comes out, but I'm trying to innovate so that we're always trying to do
you don't want to be
things.
that business that's like stuck in the 80s, right?
Right.
Or the 70s or
Yeah.
the 90s. And like Jeff would always give me a hard time because I'd be like, okay, every 10 years we have to redecorate our office, you know, like I don't want patients to feel like they walk in and it.
Yeah.
My eye doctor growing up was the same thing the whole time. I was just like, this is not our brand. Like we have to, you know, if we want patients to feel like they're coming to an upscale practice, like we have to also look that part too, right? So I feel like you have to invest in the business, and but that's just always been what we've done. Invest in technology, invest in the space, invest in our staff. Like
I was literally taught, John, when I first bought my original partner, he had said, "Oh, you don't want to invest in this. You want to invest in your home." And I thought to myself, that doesn't make any sense. No, I want to invest in my business and my home, which will lead to investing in my home, basically. And that's the way I have always treated it. And we've always, patients are always telling us, "Oh, what do you have new today?" Because it's always something new. And we just brought in virtual reality headsets to help with digital eye strain. And patients are going nuts about it, by the way, because they've never had a visual VR set on their head before.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. So
I love it. Well, you know, innovation is key, right? But it also is trial and error, like you said. You know, there's been some things that maybe if you were the first adopter, maybe it failed, right? And it didn't really work out the way you wanted. But I love the dynamic also of kind of how you transition your marketing. And then, to be honest, like one of the first things I did when I was in leadership in either my business or in banking is the handwritten notes. So I loved when you said that because I remember a team that I had, it was so new to them and they were all younger. And, you know, I'd say, hey, you know, pick out 2 or 3 clients that you met with. And this is in the banking world when I was on the retail side. And we would pick out 2 or 3 clients and handwrite note based off the conversation that they had. So maybe their dog died or, you know, little Susie had a baseball game and we would reference that. And it was so interesting. 3 to 6 months later, these people would come back and be like, oh my God, thank you so much for that letter. So such genuineness in that marketing approach that creates that word of mouth, you know, multiplier, right, per se. So really,
another one we do is we call patients. Either we're supposed, I think it's 4 weeks out.
A few weeks after they get their
just to check on 4 weeks out to see to check in and see how they're doing with their products that they bought from our practice, which is just that one extra inch you're doing to you know, find out. And we actually find out things from patients at that time.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But even if they're bad, then, you know, at least it gives us the chance to try to rectify the situation as opposed to them just being mad, you know, and not telling us. So
right.
Some people may not even want to show up again, but that call all of a sudden sparked, all right, that conversation, and you've reignited that experience to go the right route, right? And you've saved that Google review as well. So
right.
Awesome. Well, hey, look, you know, we appreciate at the GO4CEO community just learning about these things. It's such a dynamic. It's so cool to see a different style, right? A husband and wife in business, at the business, and at home. You know, managing these 2 different areas of life, but yet combining it together to make a great success. So one of the last few questions that we do is CEO, right? So C is for client experience. E is for engagement, and you talked about some of these experiences that you do with your client, your customer base and clients. And then O is for operational excellence, and that'll be some of the systems and tools, maybe AI that you're bringing in, a VR or that type of thing. So, from a client experience, like a 60-second, you know, value proposition, what does it mean to come do business with Spex Expressions?
You can take it.
Well, we have a mission statement, and it basically says that from a client experience, we will go above and beyond using new technology to make sure that your experience is exceptional. And we do that by actually going above and beyond for you.
And it's not just that, it's also focusing on not just how well they're seeing, but their actual overall eye health. We're not just about, selling people glasses. We need to understand the disease and the prevention behind eye care. We need to teach you what you need to do when your eyes are healthy, so we keep them healthy. So that's a big part of our practice as well. It's of course great customer service. Everyone says that, but it's prevention, education, and giving them the resources to make sure they can.
We're not a get you in, get you out place. We spend the time to make sure that you feel comfortable.
I love it. I love it. All right. So E for engagement. You've talked about these 4 set time periods during the year that from a client experience, they come in and enjoy the new lenses or the new technology, like you're saying, the VR. What are some of the ways that you guys engage? Do you take employees out for dinners? Do you have holiday parties? Do you have vendors that you take them out for retreats? So, what are, engage with other peers, other professionals like yourself that are in the same group. What are the engagement tricks and tools that you guys have used?
Well, yes, we do obviously like holiday dinners, but we try to do a few like social events with our staff every year just to get us out of the office, talk to each other, just as people and interact and just have fun. So I feel like we definitely try to do that. Jeff's always attending meetings and engaging with people to get new ideas of what to implement in the office.
We created a fun team at our, but
the fun team doesn't go so well. They don't actually come and present us fun ideas. So I don't know what's wrong with them. They don't have time for fun. So
yeah.
But we had a fun team. I guess we should check in on the fun team.
Yeah. We've gone to. So yes,
but we buy them lunch, if we have a great week or we see everybody's working really hard, we'll be like, at lunch, that's on us. Let's get Starbucks, like whatever. Like we try to keep them engaged and just show them that we appreciate them.
Right. So, well, it's all part of the culture, right? So I always love asking that questions because I've had so many different answers in different ways. Some people love retreats. Some people love dinners, breaking bread with people, that type of thing. So it's really cool to hear your style and what you guys have done. The last one's operational excellence, right? So we didn't hit on too much of this, but if you could just share, maybe from 10, 15 years ago, the systems that you were using as simple as QuickBooks to now what's kind of been the next level of tools that you're using within the company to go to the next level?
Well, it's going to be AI related, a lot of things. We actually just brought in something called the Shamir Spark, which actually when you pick a pair of glasses out, it will get all the settings of every measurement you need for your glasses that you then send off to the lab and they make. Because whenever you get a pair of glasses, you have to do measurements, the opticians. This is all done digitally, and it uses AI to do that. We've also brought in, like we just said, virtual reality that will actually help people with motion sickness, headaches, dryness, believe it or not.
But I think going back to operations, if he's talking operations, I mean, like we also are doing just old school, like let's have meetings talking about something's really simple, but sounds stupid, but like making sure our staff members all get a lunch and making sure they're getting a lunch at a certain time of the day and they're not taking it together. So that way patients can be always have people available, right? So sounds really basic, but sometimes when you're running a business and everyone's getting thrown in the way. So like my optical manager just created a new lunch schedule that we started this week, like we're going to start making sure we get times done at this time. We're going to have certain people assigned to certain doctors. So we're trying little different things with operations to try to see if we can become more efficient. And so that's not a fancy AI, nothing technical, but just, looking at what our struggles are and then trying to figure out new solutions. And if those don't work, we'll have to come back with another solution and just keep trying to implement them. So,
yeah.
Well, I'll say,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't like to meet people that are hangry. So,
yeah, exactly. They need to eat lunch or they're really upset. So we have to make sure they get their breaks. So,
so did you want to end with anything there, Jeff?
No, I just going along with what she's saying on operations. The whole idea behind the operations is to make us more efficient because we have limited time. We spend a lot of time with our patients, probably more than most doctors. But what I will say is we're constantly working on efficiencies to make us more, to make things flow better. And part of that was the practice, moving to the new location.
Yep.
If we didn't move to this new location, our efficiency, the waiting area was getting crazy. Patients were getting upset.
Well, the staff was ready to kill each other, I think, because it was so small.
We went from two exam rooms.
We
went from 2 exam rooms to 7 exam rooms. We went from 1 pretest room to 2 pretest rooms, plus another room for testing. So the part of the things is working with the space you have to make you more efficient, and that could be part of the problem. If you're in a place where it's not not conducive to making you efficient, then you need to make a move. Would be my advice.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, look, what an incredible interview. Thank you guys so much. Obviously, having experienced you as a client, now coming out to the Go4CEO community and sharing, the trials and tribulations, right? There's a lot to learn from what you just shared over the last hour. So we thank you for coming on and being a part of the Go4CEO community. Any way that people can reach you, right? What's the best way to get a hold of you, to make an appointment? What are some of the ways that you like to be interactive on social?
So our office phone is 815-758-1039. Our website's www.spex expressions, that's with an S.com. We're in DeKalb, Illinois. Our address is 3201 Commerce Drive in DeKalb, Illinois, 60115. We just opened up a brand new building June of this year, like I said. And come on out. If we'd be happy to see anybody. Also, if you want to just talk to me personally, my cell phone is 773-636-5363. Call me anytime. I'd be willing to offer any advice I got for you guys.
Awesome. And Kristy, anything else?
I think Jeff's covered it. Good. Thank you, John, though, for your time.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And by the way, subscribe to the channel. Keep on growing the Go4CEO community. I love hearing these stories. And check out the book. It's on Amazon.com. The 4A formula. Untangle any challenge and think like CEOs like this. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one.